It's time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. We are excited to have our good friend Alexa Zepp back with us. And Alexa, you're joining us to talk about a huge weekend in racing. Since it was created, the Pegasus World Cup day is now like a top 5 day on the racing calendar. I think this weekend we have a 13 race card at Gulfstream on Saturday. 8 stakes races, 7 graded stakes. We've got the 3 big Pegasus races. It is a huge day of racing.
It really is. And it's at Gulfstream in Florida. So it's a great place to be. I'm down here. Gino, you're going to be down here. So
Yep.
it's just an exciting week. And they really have stacked these races. They're great fields.
And we've got everything you need at shop.drf.com. So the handicapping helpers, the past performances, the clocker reports, we've got those DRF picks. Get all of the tools that you need over at shop.drf.com. We've got a lot of ground to cover, Alexa, so let's dive right on in. We're going to look at race 13 for Saturday, Gulfstream Park. This is January the 24th, and the number 1 Disco Time is undefeated. He's 5 for 5. We really have no idea how good this guy is because his last couple wins have been by 5+ lengths and 9+ lengths. So I'll give him all the positives. He's a top tier contender. This is definitely going to be a tougher field than he's faced, though. There are some legitimate horses in here to his outside, but he might be a real monster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to hold it back. This is my pick. I love Disco Time. He's one of the most experienced horses in the race when it comes to number of starts, but like you said, undefeated. And this race should have a really fast pace, but I expect him to be a part of it. I think that's probably his preferred running style, but he's also shown he can kind of come from off the pace like he did in the grade through the comp, coming from 10 lengths behind in the slop. So, he only ran twice last year. He's been off 3 months coming into this weekend, but Brad Cox, his trainer, has no issues with horses off of the layoff. So I think he's going to romp in here.
Yeah, one of the keys for him is that versatility, as you pointed out. He has speed, but he's shown us he can sit off and pass horses. British Isles, he only has 1 race in his career on the dirt that was decent. I just need to see a little bit more from him. He's been more of a turf horse throughout his career.
Yeah, I mean, he ran his lifetime fastest race ever last out. And that, like you said, was over the dirt, first time in over 2 years. He's with a new trainer who's doing really well, 27% win rate right now, but really not fast enough figures to super contend in here. I could see playing him in the exotics if you want a price, but I don't think he'll win.
There's a couple horses in this race, Alexa, that I think are really talented, but I'm not sure if they want to go a mile and an eighth. It might be a little too far from them. One of those is Full Serrano. We've seen him actually win on the grass at like a mile and a quarter, and he's run some good races going longer. I think he's the best at about a mile. He's really quick early, though. He could be pushing it.
I have the same exact notes. I mean, he had a light year last year, only 3 outs. I know the connections well. They're very thoughtful when they're placing their horses, so I'm going to root for him. But I agree that he usually, when he goes over a mile, kind of fades at the end, but doesn't fade like to the back. I mean, he still hits the board.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should, if you're playing exotics within this race, definitely include him. But it might be a little bit of a stretch from a distance standpoint.
We don't see horses like banishing too much nowadays. This horse has 13 starts in the last calendar year, in the last 12 months. And in 11 of those races, he's been in the top 3 races from 6 furlongs all the way to a mile and an eighth. He just finished second at 6 furlongs. Now he goes to a mile and an eighth. I mean, they know he's a horse that they can just run and run and run, and he keeps showing up. He outfinished Skippy Longstocking in the Oaklawn Handicap. What do you do with him?
There's an interesting stat with this horse with the trainer, actually. He's kind of an average trainer stats, but when you look at graded stakes, he really sticks out. He has a 23% win rate with a $6.23 ROI. So he's really good at having horses, underdogs ready in these big races. So I think Banishing could be an interesting addition to your ticket.
Skippy Longstocking is one of a couple major players for Saffie Joseph Jr. He finished 3rd in this race last year. And if you just looked at Skippy, he loves Gulfstream. He loves a mile and an eighth. Sometimes at the top levels, he finishes in some of the minor awards, but this race on paper fits him very well.
It's definitely his comfort zone. I mean, a third of his races have been at Gulfstream and half of them have been at this distance. So this is his preferred kind of spot. But you said he got 3rd last year. The year before he ran in this, didn't finish. The year before that, he ran in this and got 7th. He hasn't had like the best performances in this race. And I do think the pace setup is going to be tough for him. There's just going to be a lot of pace pressure up front. So I'm kind of leaving him out.
Agree with you very much on Skippy. Respect him, just not sure this is the type of race that sets up all that well for him. Madacat Road, I kind of feel the same with. He was good early in his career, but he couldn't really win any of the big ones, and then they cut him back and shortened him up. Now they're going to stretch him back out going long. I think he might just be part of the early speed in here, and there might be a lot of company up front.
Yeah, my issue with him is he's a horse who doesn't like to win. I mean, he's 1 for 9. Bob has him tightened up with a lot of fast works, but I just don't think it's going to be his day.
Next up was Tapan Street. This was my buddy earlier in the year. He was the only horse this year to defeat Sovereignty. So I think about that meme with Wolverine where he's like looking at the sad picture frame. That was kind of Tapan Street last year as Sovereignty's winning all those big races throughout the year. Here he is, Alexa. Wasn't the most impressive race in his return. Kind of looked like a race that he needed to shake some of the rust off. Super lightly raced horse with a lot of upside. He only has 4 races. What do you think about Tapan Street?
He has a lot of upside. He's young, improving, lightly raced, but we'll need to see another improvement.
Poster is the next one. Poster, Alexa, was just behind Skippy Longstocking, so he's going to have to improve on Skippy along with some of the others. He hasn't done a whole lot wrong in his career. The blinkers come on now. What do you think about Poster?
I think the blinkers coming on is a little strange because he's a horse who likes to close from behind.
Yep.
And I do like that he has kind of an opposing running style in this race because there's a lot of early speed. So I think from that standpoint, he's got some upside. But for me, he's been a disappointing favorite just too many times.
We keep mentioning how there's a good amount of early speed in here. These next 2 horses could both be part of that early speed. Captain Cook is coming out of sprint races. He's stretching back out to races at 1 1/8. And when he was going 1 1/8 earlier in his career, he was right on the lead or sitting very close to it. So I'd imagine he's going to be pretty close to the pace in here again. What do you think about Captain Cook?
I've always liked this horse because I actually wanted to buy him in November of 2024, and he was just too expensive for me at 410,000. But since then, done great, hit the board in almost every race. Brutal second place finish by a nose in the Alan Jerkins at Saratoga last summer. He's won at this distance before, lately been running shorter, but I like him here. I'm hoping when I handicap this, I didn't have odds yet, and I don't see the odds on him. It's too small on my screen, but I was hoping to get a bit of a price on him.
Yeah, he'll be a very fair price for you. And it shows you the unlucky few months I've had because I needed Captain Cook that day. I also needed Mika last time out when Mika ran second by just a neck at like 14-1. And we'll show you Mika here, who is another horse who's really quick early on. So, I mean, he could be pushing the pace early. This is a wicked beat in the Cigar Mile when he finishes second by just a neck. He's another one of those horses that could really add to the pace party up front.
Yeah, he's going to want that lead, definitely. And you're right, coming off 3 really impressive performances, won by 9 lengths last May. My thing in here, like he could definitely be like a fierce opponent in here. His trainer has really discouraging stats when it comes to graded stakes with 3% wins. So he's not always great at like placing them in these big races. And for that reason, I've left him off.
We've got the next one, White Barrio, last year's winner. He's a Breeders' Cup Classic winner. He, on paper, looks great, looks dominant, looks like the horse to beat. Off the paper, though, the concern I have, Alexa, is he was scratched right before the race in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And since then, we haven't seen him race. He was supposed to run another time, didn't run. He's had a little bit of like workout issues in the morning. He hasn't always looked like a 100%. But, I mean, if he shows up in the gate and he's ready to run on Saturday, he's going to be really tough.
Yeah, I mean, if he runs to his best race that we've seen before, he'll win. But I agree. I think there's too many questions, and I think you can fish for a better price in here.
And we round things out with Brother Kenny, who recently turned 4, and he just won over at Zia Park. So he's going to be stepping up and facing some of the big boys in here. Do you give him any type of a shot?
I mean, the owners are More Play Racing and Michael Ivarone. If you watch the Netflix special, that name should ring a bell. So definitely like the most entertaining, interesting connections in here probably. But no, I don't think he's got a shot to win.
We move to selections for this one. Alexa, how are you going to stack him up in here?
I put Disco Time over Captain Cook over Banishing, and then last year's winner, White Barrio.
Got some similarities in there, too. I think Disco Time is the horse to beat. I'll go back to my old friend, Tapan Street. I think Banishing is a very fun long shot to include. Don't go anywhere, folks. the Pegasus World Cup on the dirt is going to be the Pegasus World Cup on the turf. So this one is going to go as race number 12 on Saturday, January the 24th. We got $1 million up for grabs. What I thought was really cool about this race, particularly, Alexa, was you actually have a lot of the horses from Southern California that are shipping out too, like Cabo Spirit, Call Sign 7, Almendaris, Astronomer, even Balnikov. They're all coming out. If they are in this race, you've almost got like a mini race of the West Coast horses and then the horses from the East and the Midwest all coming together. So it's a pretty cool group that shows up. Let's start things out with Test Score. He's going to step up and face older horses, but he goes out for a really good trainer, Graham Motion. And this horse had a very nice 2025 where he just showed up and ran good races all the time. This will be a little tougher, though, because he's going to step up and face the older horses, and he's been really facing 3-year-olds throughout the bulk of his career.
Yeah, I mean, great horse. He's collected over or close to 1.5 million in 2 years. Hardly ever off the board, so you probably don't want to totally discount. But I do think he's been like declining a little bit in the last few starts, and would need a bit of an improvement.
Program trading feels like one of the major players in here. And what I like about him, this distance is where he's the best. He was in a little bit of a tough spot in the Breeders' Cup because he's best at 1 mile and 1/8. And in the Breeders' Cup, there's a Breeders' Cup race at 1 mile and a Breeders' Cup race at 1.5 miles. So he either has to run a little too short or a little too far, and he's kind of in between. Races like this are, I think, perfect for him from a distance standpoint. I think the class is there. He just feels like a top-tier player for me.
Yeah, I mean, if he runs his best race, he could absolutely win this race. I definitely think he could hit the board. So, like you said, unfortunately wasn't a factor in the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile, but it wasn't necessarily his preferred spot. So, I think one to keep an eye on.
Beach Gold comes out of the Fort Lauderdale. He was right behind Cugino there. He's multiple graded stakes placed. He's like a really honest horse for Patrick B. and Cone.
Yeah, in his 16 lifetime starts, he's always gone shorter until this last start here at Gulfstream over the same course, but was kind of like average mid-pack. And I think this race turned up tougher, so I don't think there's a major reason to think he'll improve.
One Stripe is a South African runner who got a little bit of class relief in his most recent start. He was a Group 1 winner in South Africa. When he came to North America, they put him in some really tough spots. Those were probably a little too tough because he faced Notable Speech, both races, the Breeders' Cup Mile winner. Once he dropped in class, though, he won. What do you think about One Stripe trying to put 2 wins together?
You know, this is the farthest he'll ever run. Like you just saw, he won going away. So I actually don't think the distance is a concern. I do think the level of competition is because, like you said, it took him a class drop to win that. So, you know, one advantage though, there's not a ton of early speed in here, so he could try to take that position. I think that probably would be the best tactic for trainer Graham Motion to recommend. So it's possible, but not one of my top picks.
And that point is something that I think both you and I are kind of leaning into in our handicapping, that it doesn't look like there's a lot of early speed in this race. That may hurt a horse like Almendaris because he wants to sit back. He wants to make one late run. He's also not quite as good at 1 mile and 1/8. He looks like he's really like a miler right about that distance. Any thoughts on Almendaris?
Yeah, like you're saying, he hasn't run this far in over 2 years, and he's never been able to get the win at this level in a graded stakes,
Yes.
despite 11 tries. So
Yep.
I just think it's going to be too tough.
It's a great point. He doesn't have that big win in SoCal, and this is a tougher field. Call
Mhm.
Sign 7 did get a big win last time out. He was 68-1 when he won the Seabiscuit. He's pretty lightly raced, and he's got some upside, so he's moving in the right direction here. But is he good enough to compete with a group like this yet?
He could be a sneaky play. I think the distance is going to be fine for him, even though he hasn't really gone longer than that. Um, but first time out of California, but his trainer does really well in graded stakes. So I could see him being a sneaky play.
Major Dude is next up. He ran 6th in this race last year, and I feel like coming into the race last year, he was just in better form.
Yeah.
You know, he is a multiple graded stakes winner, though, but I just don't know if he's as good as he was last year at this time.
Yeah, he hasn't really improved since. I don't think he's really declined a ton either. But
Yeah.
there's stronger closers in the field.
Like he's plateaued, right? We feel like
Yeah.
some of these like lightly raced horses are kind of exciting because you think they still might be on the upswing. For him, you sort of know what you're going to get, I think, at this point. We move to Cabo Spirit. He is a major player in here, Alexa, because he's a multiple graded stakes winner. He has big speed. He can sit off a little bit. And if you look at his recent form, 7 of his last 8 races have been top 3 finishes. He just always shows up. He's really honest, and he like gives a good account of himself. He is a trier.
Yeah. He's got a huge advantage in this race from a pace standpoint. He's the only clear-cut early speed leader in the race, from my opinion. So I think he could get out there and steal it. Every race, pretty much every race he's won, he did so in that fashion. His speed figures are peaking right now. I just think he's like totally primed for this spot.
Chasing the Crown and Cugino, they're the next two. They both come out of the Fort Lauderdale. Chasing the Crown finished fifth that day. Cugino actually finished second. Cugino's a horse who is very honest. You can see he's been in the top two in 11 of his 14 races, but he's another one, Alexa, through the years that has got me. And the funny thing about Cugino is when like he loses by like a nose, if you just read the name, see you, Gino. It's basically like smacking me in the face when he gets beat right on the wire. See you, Gino. Cugino, he's a big player in here. What do you think about him?
He is a big player. He looks so competitive. He's been first or second 11 out of 14 lifetime starts. He's just always at the party. And I think like he's the best chance for a closer to catch Cabo Spirit. Like if anybody catches him, my guess is it'll be Kujita.
I think he lost to a horse, Wolfie's Dynaghost, who was setting a world record in that race last time out at the Fort Lauderdale. It's like, that's the way I lose also to horses who have those kinds of monster efforts. Astronomer is 0 for his last 16. He likes seconds and thirds, though. So if you're playing tries and supers, he's a fine under horse. He's just another that doesn't ever really win the big one.
No, last one was 2.5 years ago. Yee. I'm not.
We round things out with Fort Washington. He's a grade one winner. He can win with wide trips. He was fifth in this race last year. And you could probably put a line through his most recent race. That was back in September. He just didn't really fire then. His best races are very, very good. What do you think about Fort Washington?
So he's coming off of a 4-month layoff, and there's been 4 other large layoffs in his career, and he's never won first race out. So I think he might be a horse who kind of needs to race back into shape. So I'm kind of leaving him off.
His trainer is that type of trainer too. He's patient. He lets them kind of build up their stamina with a few races. So we go to selections here for this one, and we both have the same exact 4 horses, just in a slightly different order. So, I mean, in a big field like that, that tells you something. Alexa's going to go Cabo Spirit, 8-2, 8-10-2-4. For me, 2-8-10-4. We're all evens in the Pegasus World Cup turf. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about the fillies and mares on the turf when we return. For our final segment, we have to get to race number 10 on Saturday. This is the Pegasus World Cup filly and mare turf. It's a big field. We've got a short segment. We got to fly right into this field, Alexa. The one ready for sure, we actually have a backtrack replay of we can show you. She's a grade 2 winner, but she's been behind Breath Away, Creval d'Oro, Caitlin Her Greatness in our time. We see in this particular race, she's behind Breath Away and Caitlin Her Greatness. So that's my major concern with her. And it's also going to be her first start since October the 4th. So she's kind of honest. She's a horse who I could see underneath, but she's more of a deeper closer in here. So I don't have her towards the top. The 2 Heredia I can have as more of like an underneath type horse. It's a grade 2 winner who didn't run poorly in the last couple, but she was facing legitimate grade 1 company in the Matriarch, in the First Lady. So I think those horses are just better. Destino d'Oro, Alexa, is a little interesting. She's lightly raced. Trainer Brad Cox, I mean, he could have a monster day. He trains Disco Time. He could win a couple of these really big races on Saturday.
Yeah, I think she's got a lot of upside in here. Most recent win was over the same course at Gulfstream. And I think she should just naturally improve. She just entered her 4-year-old year, is entering her prime, as opposed to like Heredia, who just talked about, who needs to improve, but is 7 years old, probably much less likely to see that than from a young horse.
Shows you how competitive this race is when you look at the odds here, because everybody is about 5-1 and above. Like there's not going to be any really short prices in this field. I do think Breath Away is one of the more solid horses in here. She's another one who faced tough company last time. She faced grade 1 horses, and she was a winner in the Dance Smartly a couple starts back at Woodbine, going a mile into 16th. She's won at Gulfstream. She could fit this turf course and this track and this kind of class level.
Yeah, and she's a closer. In her last race. She got 4th, but there was a big advantage that day to the horses on the lead. So I think seeing her close into that um, actually is an effort better than it looked. So I think she's a valid contender in here for the win.
Classic Q is kind of versatile for Mark Cassie. She's shown us that she can go on the front. 2 starts back, she had to come from way out of it when she finished second. She's going to be facing some older horses in here, but look who she dealt with a few starts back. She's so spicy, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner.
Yeah. Yeah. My thing with Classic Q is like her last race was her best, but a bunch of horses have run back from that and they've all done like they haven't run great. So I don't know if that race was a really like reliable indicator of performance.
Caitlin, her greatness, won the King's Plate. That's the Kentucky Derby for the Canadian breds, and she beat the boys in doing so when she won that race back in 2024. My major concern with her, I think she's better on synthetic than on turf. Now, that doesn't mean she can't win this race on the grass, but she just does seem more brilliant on the synthetic.
She's done okay on the grass, but she definitely prefers the synthetic. So I'm kind of medium on her.
One of the top players in here, I mean, just off connections, trainer Chad Brown, jockey Flavian Pratt, is Whiskey Decision. This is a grade 3 winner, but she's not raced since September and only raced a couple times in 2025 when coming into the Chad Brown barn. What do you think about Whiskey Decision's chances in here?
It's my top pick. I mean, she had a little setback in training last October, it looks like. She had some weeks off, but she's been working really consistently since November. Chad Brown is really great at having them ready for these big races off the layoff. So I think she's very formidable in here.
And we see her in this backtrack replay right there. Moving along to Proctor Street is sharp right now. She has won 3 of her last 4. She kind of found some room in between horses and spurt through for a nice win. What do you think about her chances here?
I like her as well. I'm including her in my top 4. Last race was lifetime best performance yet. This is a class jump. She's never been against graded 6 company before, but I think she makes a lot of sense in here.
Creval Dioro won last time out right here at Gulfstream Park. Do you give this gal a chance?
No, I think there's just stronger closers in here.
And one more time, one of those lightly raced horses just finished behind Destino Dioro, but she hasn't been able to really put races together a whole lot. She might be able to build some fitness up in here.
Yeah, I think this is a step back up in class for her from her 2 most recent starts, so she makes some sense for sure.
If anybody's going to steal this race on the front end, Alexa, it's the number 11 in our time. She just looks like the fastest. My concern is she's just won for her last 9, but she did run 3rd in last year's race.
I just don't think she's going to want to go longer than a mile. Wait, is this a mile?
And this
no,
is
mile on the 16th.
So that's where, and then you can kind of see it in her past performances, right? Like that's where she kind of hits the wall, right? About that mile when she gets a little bit tired. So she'll have that control, but can she seal the deal and finish it off? We round things out with Moving On Up, who comes off of a runner-up effort last time out. She's going to be parked way out wide, but she has some versatility. Do you give her a shot in here?
I think she has some pace advantage with being able to be forwardly placed amongst a bunch of closers, but I do think it's going to be a tough spot.
Alexa, it was great to have you back here chatting with us. I wish you the best of luck. I wish all of you the best of luck this weekend at Gulfstream Park. For Alexa, Whiskey Decision is the top play in here. For me, going to be Destino Dioro. The important part is always you. Whoever you play, however you play them, we wish you the best of luck.